Greetings and salutations, everyone. Today is the 29th of July, 2024, and I am Thaddeus Satori. I would like to continue sharing my experience with cancer and the treatment that I chose for it. But before I do that, I want to make it very clear that I have had no medical training, and I am not trying to advise anyone. I am simply sharing my own personal story. In part one, I shared how I learned that I had Merkel cell carcinoma, and I relayed the treatment program that was prescribed by the oncologist in the United States. In this part two, I'd like to share a little bit about why I chose the more holistic approach, and I would like to highlight a few of the treatments that I received at the clinic in Bangkok. Before I continue, however, I want to give a shout out to my family. The overall cost of my 6-week program at Verita Life Clinic in Bangkok was roughly 50,000 US dollars in 2017. And of course, I didn't have that kind of money lying around. So my father and my sisters stepped up and donated to saving my life so I could go to this program. So thank you all very much. Quite the gift. So as to why I chose the more holistic method, I suppose the first reason is that I've always been a bit of a hippie and a nonconformist, and the cancer treatment in the United States always struck me as sort of like putting napalm on your vegetable garden to kill the weeds. It kills the normal cells in addition to the cancer cells. It's very indiscriminate. Whereas the holistic method views the system as a whole, and it attempts to rebalance the entire system. Another reason I chose this route is because I had met people in the States who were receiving radiation or chemo treatment, and I saw how the treatments themselves had devastated their bodies and really their quality of life, and I didn't really want to go through that myself. I have always thought that if I had a traumatic injury, I would much rather have a Western doctor working on me, whereas if I had a chronic illness, I would rather take the more holistic approach to balancing an out-of-balance system. So I was predisposed, I guess, for the more holistic method. The third reason I chose this method was because of just the deadliness of Merkel cell carcinoma. I researched it and discovered that I had somewhere between a 40 and 60% chance of just living another 5 years. And I knew that the radiation and chemo would not reboot my immune system so that it suddenly recognized the pathology of the cancer cells. It was the holistic method that offered at least the hope of that. There are no guarantees in life, but it did offer the possibility of rebooting the immune system and providing a complete fix. So that pretty much takes care of the why. Now I will share with you some of the highlights of my treatment. When I first arrived at the clinic in Bangkok, they took 350 milliliters of blood from me, and they sent it to a laboratory in Germany, where the idea was to train my immune cells to be able to identify the cancer in my bloodstream. These new and improved immune cells were then sent back to the clinic at minus 80 degrees Celsius or minus 112 degrees Fahrenheit. At the clinic, I was given these new and improved cells back in the form of a weekly injection. These cells were meant to train up the immune cells in my system to be able to identify the cancer as a pathogen. I was also told that in addition to Merkel cell carcinoma, they had trained my immune cells to identify half a dozen other cancers. I don't know which, but that is the perhaps the most profound kicker to the whole program, and it was the largest cost at $20,000 US. The next thing they did after I arrived at the clinic was to send me to a hospital to have inserted a port line or a PICC line. I chose the PICC line. During the 6-week course, you are given high doses of vitamins and herbs. These IVs are given in such high doses that they would collapse the veins in your arms. So they need to tap into a more robust vein. So they put a hole in your chest and they put a catheter to a large vein going into the heart. And this vein can withstand the high doses of herbs and vitamins that you are getting. The next very memorable treatment I received was chemotherapy. However, they gave me just 10% of the normal dose, so my hair did not fall out. But what was quite fascinating was what accompanied the chemo treatment. So prior to giving me the poison sugar, they first injected me with insulin to crash my blood sugar with the purpose of causing the cancer cells to go into a frenzy in their search for food. Then they hit him with the poison carbs, and following this was the hyperthermia machine. It was basically a flat bed with two electrodes. Since the cancer was in my face, I had my head sandwiched between the two electrodes. With this machine, they could control the temperature and they could control the depth at which the heat hit the cells. Now, cancer cells have a softer membrane than do normal cells. So in their weakened state, the idea was to cause the cancer cells to explode while leaving the normal cells intact. And finally, what I felt was also a key component of the program was the cancer keto diet. In this diet, you are capped out at a maximum of 35 grams of carbohydrates per day. The diet itself is as boring as all get out, so I won't sugarcoat that. However, I was familiar with different forms of fasting, and I consider this to be just another fast. The other thing that helped me through it psychologically was something I've told myself for decades now and have tried to pass on to my daughters. If it is something you absolutely have to do not torture yourself with thoughts of, I don't like this, because it has to be done, so just do it and be done with it. So that ends the highlights of the treatments I received. During my downtime, I kept a list of almost all the treatments I got, and I have put it in a PDF form and attached it so you can download it and have a look at it if you like. Bear in mind that this is an integrated program, and every aspect of the treatment supports the other aspects. So it's certainly best if you can do them all in the right order and for the right amount of time. In part 3, I will share with you my post-treatment tests, I suppose, back in the United States. So more on this later. Thank you all for listening. I hope you find some of it useful. Cheers for now.